HYBE, which is home to BTS and the biggest name in K-pop, is now facing simultaneous investigations by Korea's four major government bodies, and that is the police, prosecutors, financial regulators, and now the National Tax Service, aka NTS. Okay, so this video you're watching breaks down why HYBE is being scrutinized, what makes this case different from past entertainment industry scandals, and whether the tax investigation is even justified. And was this about real wrongdoing, or is HYBE being made an example of? So that's an important question. Also, I have been covering this issue for a while. What you're looking at right now are the thumbnails for the videos that I have been making for the past few weeks. So if you have not watched them, you're welcome to go back and follow the case. And as you probably know by now, my channel is all about laying out facts so that my viewers can make opinions or decisions themselves. And there are two things that I want you to be cautious of. First, there are people who simply create and spread fake news. Okay? But on the other hand, there are also people who say that everything is fake news. But like I said, I'm all about laying out facts as they are so that you can make decisions yourselves. All right? So let's start here. On July 29th, a news media agency called Field News, Korean media agency, Field News, released an exclusive article titled "Korean Tax Authorities Launch Special Audit into HYBE and Chairman Si-hyuk." Okay, I personally have not heard of this media agency, but later on, multiple other Korean media agencies, including the major ones, reported on the same case. And HYBE did not deny the fact that NTS did an investigation. So by now, it seems like this actually happened. Okay, so let's read and do some analysis. All right. Once again, the title was Korean Tax Authorities Launch Special Audit into HYBE and Chairman Sihyuk. HYBE, the company led by Chairman Sihyuk, is now facing its biggest crisis since its founding. Interesting opening. Already under police investigation for allegedly deceiving early investors ahead of its IPO and gaining unfair profits, a violation of the Capital Markets Act through fraudulent transactions, the company has now been hit with a fresh challenge. This time, it's the Seoul Regional Tax Office's fourth bureau of investigation that's taking aim at HYBE. And it has been said by multiple media agencies that this particular bureau does not handle routine audits. It only steps in for irregular or special audits when there are strong suspicions of tax evasion or specific intelligence reports. And interestingly, due to the intensity of its investigations, the bureau is often referred to as the prosecutor's office of the NTS, or the Grim Reaper of corporations. Okay? Now, back to the article. On the 29th, the National Tax Service, NTS, announced that it had launched a special tax investigation into 27 entities suspected of tax evasion through unfair stock market practices, including stock price manipulation. Among those being investigated is HYBE, which recently topped the K-brand index in the entertainment category of listed companies. According to sources in the entertainment industry and investigative agencies, the Seoul Tax Office's 4th Investigation Bureau dispatched officials to HYBE's headquarters in Yongsan, Seoul, early that morning without prior notice. That is the morning of the 29th of July. They began collecting a wide range of financial records and materials necessary for the audit. This marks the first tax audit into HYBE in 3 years, following a regular audit in June 2022. At the time, the first bureau of the Seoul Regional Tax Office imposed tens of billions of Korean won in back taxes on the company. Now, this was interesting because I have found, that this was reported by news media articles at the time in 2022. But this is the first time that I have heard that the Seoul Regional Tax Office imposed tens of billions of Korean won in back taxes on the company, on HYBE. I could not find anywhere else about what was written here. So I cannot verify whether that's true or not. Now, for context, in 2022, HYBE made a revenue of, how much is this? About 1.776 trillion Korean won. And maybe there were some, some like records that they missed. I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, that's what this particular article said. But again, I could not verify anywhere else whether that's true or not, and how this particular media agency found out about it. All right. Now, back to the article. HYBE isn't the only one in the spotlight. A number of individuals and companies accused of disrupting the stock market for profit over the past 2 years are also reportedly included in this round of investigations. In a briefing held that morning, the NTS confirmed that it had launched a full-scale tax probe into 27 entities suspected of evading taxes through unfair market activities. These include, and yes, NTS made a press release about this whole thing, and this is the material that you're looking at. So they said these include 9 companies that released false disclosures with the intent to manipulate stock prices, and 8 so-called corporate raiders who acquired companies only to sell off valuable assets and then delist them, and 10 controlling shareholders who allegedly privatized public companies to extract personal gains. All right, so 9 plus 7 plus 10 equal 27. Meanwhile, the investigation into HYBE and Chairman Bang is also being handled by Special Judicial Police Officers at the Financial Supervisory Service, FSS, working on the direction of both the police and prosecutors. And that's something that we have already known about. Okay, this escalation follows the July 16th decision by the Securities and Futures Commission to formally refer Bang Sihyuk and 3 former HYBE executives to the prosecution. The investigation, which began last December, initially stalled after 2 requests for search warrants were denied. The warrant was finally granted on the 3rd attempt. Okay, so that was the article. Now, let me read you one more article about it. Okay, so again, this particular article was an exclusive piece released by a media agency called Field News. Now, what I'm about to read you is another article on the case reported by, I think the name of this article media agency is like Jose News. So it's a media agency platform that particularly covers tax-related issues in Korea. All right. So the title is Korean Tax Authorities Launch Unscheduled Tax Audit into HYBE. Are they investigating Bang Sihyuk's suspected unfair trading? That's the title. Okay, cool. The NTS has reportedly launched an unscheduled or special tax audit into HYBE, drawing significant attention from the industry. This move comes just after the NTS announced it would be cracking down on tax evasion linked to unfair practices in the stock market. Previously, financial authorities had referred HYBE's largest shareholder, Chairman Bang Sihyuk, along with former executives, we know about that, to prosecutors on allegations of fraudulent unfair trading. Police also recently carried out a search and seizure operation at HYBE's headquarters. Thank you for that old information. On the 29th, Field News. So they are referring to this media agency. So on the 29th, Field News reported that HYBE was among the 27 companies and individuals listed in the NTS new special tax investigation into tax evasion related to stock market misconduct. According to the report, the Seoul Regional Tax Office 4th Bureau of Investigation sent officials to HYBE's Yongsan headquarters that morning and began collecting financial documents required for the audit. That same day, the NTS announced it had launched tax probes into 27 entities that harmed minority shareholders in the stock market. These include companies that falsely disclosed information to manipulate stock prices, were run by corporate raiders who stripped companies for profit, had controlling shareholders who privatized listed firms for personal gain. Specifically, the audit targets 9 entities that used false disclosures to inflate share prices and sold off large stakes for massive profits. 8 so-called hit-and-run corporate raiders who acquire solid companies using private loans, took out further loans using core assets as collateral, or liquidated company assets to funnel funds under various investment pretext, and 10 controlling shareholders of listed companies who abused their power to infringe on the rights of minority investors. Now, I have read this twice by now, right? But it doesn't seem like HYBE or Sihyuk falls into either of these 3 categories. So I'm like, this is kind of weird. Well, but first, let me finish this article. The NTS plans to employ digital forensic tools during this investigation, including financial account tracing, document recovery, and forgery analysis. They will also leverage data from foreign exchange reports, the Korea Financial Intelligence Unit, and other investigative bodies like the police and prosecutors. Meanwhile, so they're talking about the old news on July 16th, the Securities and Futures Commission, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to skip that. And Pang and others are suspected of misleading existing shareholders before HYBE's IPO by making it seem like the listing might be delayed, thereby purchasing shares under false pretense, and then profiting by selling their own shares after the listing. So this is what the majority of the Korean media agencies are doing right now, connecting the so-called HYBE IPO controversy and Sihyuk allegations to the fact that NTS executed an investigation into HYBE. Okay, and also at the end of this article, it says there are also allegations that Sihyuk orchestrated the sale of his shares to a special purpose company created by a private equity fund involving former HYBE executives. Notably, it has been reported that a shareholder agreement promised, same thing over and over again, and none of it really goes into detail as Deagle Site, which is a media agency platform that I discussed in one of these videos. I think this one, but oh well. Let's see. Now, this one. An NTS official commented, "We cannot disclose specific information about the investigation. We ask for your understanding." So I think reporters contacted NTS asking whether HYBE was among the 27 companies, and the related personnel said that they cannot disclose any information. All right, but another official added, the article says, this special audit won't just focus on unfair trading by major shareholders or senior executives. It may expand to cover broader issues such as potential offshore tax evasion through overseas subsidiaries in the US, Japan, and Southeast Asia, the appropriateness of tax filings related to HYBE artists, and internal and internal transactions between affiliates and related parties. Okay, that's how this particular article ends. Getting the quote from 국세청 관계자, another official from NTS. So, interesting. So it does seem like the NTS did a probe or investigation into HYBE, but we don't know the details yet. But like I said, or like the article said, NTS did come up with the press release early that morning, reporting on what kinds of companies they started an investigation into. But HYBE may not fall squarely into the 3 main categories targeted by this special audit. Okay, 3 categories. First one with 9 companies, second category with 8 companies, and third category with 10 companies. Because So here's a breakdown of the reasoning. First of all, who the NTS is actually targeting. The NTS clearly outlined three types of unfair actors in the stock market. Okay, one, entities that issued false disclosures to manipulate stock prices for profit. Okay, so that was category number one. Category number two, the corporate raiders who acquired good companies, drained them of value, and left them hollow. So that was category number three and number two. Category number three, controlling shareholders who privatized listed companies for personal gain, harming minority shareholders. Okay, so these categories are very specific, and their examples are pretty extreme. Like forged tax invoices, embezzlement through fake contracts, using company money to buy luxury goods, and evading hundreds of billions of Korean won in taxes, and etc. Now, the question is, does HYBE fit these categories? And based on what's publicly known, HYBE, at least from what I know of, HYBE didn't issue false disclosures about non-existent contracts or projects, and it's not a shell company gutted by private equity raiders. And there's no evidence of HYBE using corporate funds for personal luxury consumption or setting up fake invoices. So the allegations that HYBE and Bang Si-hyuk are facing are related to pre-IPO share transactions, right? And alleged misleading of existing shareholders, not post-IPO fraud or asset siphoning, so to say, which is what most of these cases involve. These cases introduced by the NTS. Now, the NTS official's vague answer kind of reinforces this. When asked directly whether all 27 companies or entities are under criminal investigation, the NTS official said, of the 27, about 10 are under active investigation or trial. The remaining 17 are being probed based on tax evasion suspicions. So that suggests some are probationary or precautionary targets, not necessarily deeply fraudulent cases yet. So yeah, you're probably right. Like HYBE doesn't appear to fall into any of these three major categories defined in the NTS own briefing. Like its inclusion seems more about the broader pressure around unfair market activity and probably or perhaps a desire by authorities to be seen taking action across all fronts. So the real question might be, is HYBE being swept up in this for symbolic reasons? Because HYBE is number one and largest entertainment company in Korea with BTS as a front artist, right? Or do Korean authorities suspect something more concrete related to offshore tax issues, or artist taxation, or inter-affiliate dealings? So that we don't know the answer yet. But I think, while reading up these cases, I thought it was kind of ironic. Why? Because Bang Si-hyuk paid half of 400 billion Korean won in taxes voluntarily after he got the profits from the deal made with the HYBE investor. And this was actually reported by multiple Korean media agencies, including 한국경제, Korean Economic Daily, who has been leading the report on HYBE IPO controversy. Okay, so and also, according to HYBE's own statements, referred to by K-Media, Bang Si-hyuk reported the income from the PEF profit sharing deal himself and paid roughly 50% of it as taxes. And that's how much? 200 billion Korean won. Likely under Korea's top marginal income tax rate. That itself, I think, is incredible that an individual could pay that much as a tax. And that's not tax evasion. That's the opposite. Full declaration and full payment. And the NTS is now investigating him for potential tax evasion. So that's the irony. What's the irony is that the same National Tax Service that received hundreds of billions of won in income tax from Bang Si-hyuk is now including HYBE in a sweeping probe targeting people who hid income and targeting entities accused of withholding taxes, faking contracts, or laundering funds through paper companies. But in Bang Si-hyuk case, the 400 billion Korean won income was above board, and the tax was paid in full, publicly acknowledged and likely already audited, given the size. So why the scrutiny now? This starts to look like a political or reputational reaction, not a clear-cut tax evasion case. There might be multiple possible motives. Like, for example, there might be optics, like HYBE is under fire from multiple angles, like the FSS, prosecutors, the media. So the NTS may be signaling, like, we are watching them too, or something. And while the PF deal was taxed, authorities may now be wondering if other income streams, like foreign affiliate revenues, artist taxes, or SBC transactions, were less clean. That might be one of the cases, potential cases, or coordinated pressure. By that, I mean like the combination of FSS complaints, police raids, and NTS audits could be an attempt to uncover something bigger, even if the known transactions were legitimate. Who knows? But the bottom line is, yeah, it's kind of ironic, and possibly unjust to see Bang Si-hyuk, who paid half of a 400 billion Korean won income to the tax office, get lumped into a crackdown on tax dodgers. It raises the question, is this about actual evasion, or about making an example out of a high-profile figure at a time when financial accountability in chaebol culture, Korean chaebol culture, is under scrutiny? We may not know the full picture yet. But from what's publicly visible, this does look like a case where, Bang Si-hyuk may be guilty of unpopular optics, not necessarily criminal tax behavior. Okay? Now, before we wrap, there's one more article that I want to talk about. So this one adds several important contextual points and angles not covered in the earlier pieces that I have reviewed. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but first of all, HYBE is the first major entertainment company to face a full government-wide crackdown. Okay, the first among the big four, SM, YG, JYP, and HYBE, to be simultaneously investigated by the, guess what, police, prosecutors, financial regulators, and the National Tax Service. Other companies like SM and YG have faced individual investigations or audits in the past. Okay, but HYBE is the only one subjected to a package of investigations across criminal, financial, and tax domains at the same time. Okay, and this article frames HYBE's case as unprecedented within the Korea entertainment industry. And there are also historical comparisons to other agencies' penalties, like on SM and YG. SM Entertainment, they were fined 20.2 billion Korean won after an audit related to offshore tax evasion and internal transactions. In 2000, there we go. In 2009 and 2014 and 2020. Okay. SM was fined 20.2 billion Korean won after an audit related to offshore tax evasion and internal transactions. YG Entertainment was fined 6 billion Korean won after the 2019 Burning Sun scandal and follow-up tax probe. Okay, and now that I'm thinking, even if it is true that, according to Field News, HYBE was fined tens of billion Korean won, not tens of billions, 수십억, so billions of Korean won as back taxes. Given the size and the scale of HYBE's revenue and profits, it's comparably little compared to other entertainment companies. But once again, I'm not sure if that is even true. But back to this article that we were discussing. So YG was fined 6 billion Korean won after the 2019 Burning Sun scandal and follow-up tax probe. Those of you who have no idea what Burning Sun scandal is about, I don't think I have discussed on my channel. Go look for other videos. I think BBC Korea made like a mini documentary on the case. So watch that one if you're interested. Now, this background contextualizes HYBE's current troubles and shows how much more intense and complete this case is compared to other past scandals in the industry. And what about the explanation of why HYBE is being treated differently? So this article connects HYBE's harsh scrutiny to its rapid rise to power through large-scale M&A and global expansion. Okay? 급성장하면서. And its complex ownership structure with many domestic and overseas subsidiaries. And its transformation into Korea's first entertainment company designated as Chaebol Group, like their large company group, which placed it under stricter state oversight. And unlike other agencies that grew gradually, the article said, HYBE's aggressive expansion has led to a more opaque and complicated structure, drawing attention from regulators. So this, the so-called structural complexity and scale argument may help explain why regulators are going beyond just investigating Bang Si-hyuk personally. Like they're looking at HYBE as a systematic financial actor or systemic financial actor. But I don't know. What do you think? I would like to ask. What else? And the article also noted, unlike their earlier statement after the Financial Supervisor Service forwarded the case to prosecutors where HYBE expressed regret and explained its position, the company has remained silent on the NTS tax probe. Okay? And yeah, maybe HYBE seems to be taking a more defensive posture, possibly because previous explanations were dismissed by authorities, the article notes. Okay? Right here. Unlike their earlier statement after the FSS, Financial Supervisor Service, forwarded the case to prosecutors where HYBE expressed regret and explained its position, the company has remained silent on the National Tax Service tax probe. HYBE seems to be taking a more defensive posture, possibly because previous explanations were dismissed by authorities. Okay, that could make sense. Like the strategic shift in public messaging is notable and suggests the company sees limited room for negotiation or persuasion at this point. Who knows? But that's something the article noted. And the article reiterates that Bang Si-hyuk received about 400 billion Korean won through the private equity deal, and authorities believe about 190 billion Korean won of that may constitute unfair gains shared with former HYBE executives. But yeah, that's the old news parroted by Korean media agencies. So there we go. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think HYBE is being unfairly singled out in this case yet again? Or is this level of scrutiny justified? And why do you think other major agencies like SM or YG never faced this kind of multi-agency crackdown, multi-government agency crackdown? And does this investigation make you think differently about Bang Si-hyuk or HYBE as a company? And if Bang Si-hyuk paid taxes, well, I mean, it is actually true. Bang Si-hyuk paid taxes on his 400 billion Korean won income. Do you think the NTS should still be going after him? That's another question. And is HYBE being punished for growing too fast and becoming too powerful in the K-pop world, as suggested by this particular article? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And we will keep following every step of this investigation if there's something notable coming up. And as always, if you want to add something to the discussion table by writing comments, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.